Everyone, thank you for joining us. We will go ahead and get started in a couple of minutes. Watching those participant numbers go up and little by little. Oh, they are climbing very high. This is amazing. We're so happy that you have joined us today for our Supporting Dual Language Learners in California State Preschool Programs. We'll get started shortly. A few more seconds. All right, it looks like the participant numbers have started to slow down a little bit. So we will go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us today for our webinar, Supporting Dual Language Learners in California State Preschool Programs, or CSPP. This is the last webinar we have scheduled at the moment in our three-part series for dual language learner students. My name is Valentina Ware, and I am a child development consultant with the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Implementation and Support Office in the Early Education Division at the California Department of Education. I am joined here today by my administrator, Shanna Burkholz Vasquez, who I work with in the UPK office in the Early Education Division at the CDE, and Margaret Tom, Education Programs Assistant in the Multilingual Support Division. We have a lot of great staff with us here today to help support our webinar. So I would like to give a big shout out to our EED team, Patricia, Virginia, Amira, Mai, Anna, Stephen, Sandra, Linda, Crystal, John, Corey, and Yashima. Thank you so much for helping us present this webinar. Thank you to our Multilingual Support Division, as well as Early Edge and other co-sponsors of Assembly Bill 1363 for the wonderful collaboration. Also, thank you to our wonderful American Sign Language interpreters for being here with us today. Next slide, please. To get us started, we have an overview of what today's webinar will look like so participants know what to expect. The agenda is available on this slide, where we will be addressing the following topics: a brief review of highlights in part 1 and part 2 of the DLL webinar series, policy background, and guest speakers on classroom strategies and family engagement strategies. And then we will wrap up with discussing our dual language support webpage before going into our discussion panel. Since this webinar today is the third and final webinar of this series, we would first like to give you some highlights from part 1 and part 2 of our dual language learner series. Next slide, please. Throughout the first 2 webinars in our series, there was substantial information covered, beginning with the importance of multilingualism and cultural diversity, how to use the family language instrument, and the family language and interest interview to identify dual language learners, and then the next steps for how to have the data reflect the students who were identified as dual language learners in your programs. Some additional highlights from each part were: in part 1, identifying dual language learners in California State Preschool Programs, we had the opportunity to work with Jessica Gutierrez, Early Learning Program Manager from Fresno Unified School District, as our guest speaker for this webinar. She did an amazing job highlighting all of the tools Fresno Unified School District uses to identify dual language learners in their program that has now become a valuable part of their early learning practice. In addition to our guest speaker, we were able to address frequently asked questions and had the opportunity for a live question and answer session. In part 2, data reporting dual language learners in California State Preschool Programs, the intent was to provide technical assistance on what to do in programs once the dual language learners have been identified. If you are not able to attend these sessions live, we have great news. Part 1 and 2 were recorded and will be posted on our Dual Language Learner Support webpage. This session today is also being recorded and will too be posted on the Dual Language Learner Support webpage. We will be discussing this Dual Language Learner Support webpage later in this webinar. Next slide, please. Based on the data that the Migration Policy Institute, also known as MPI, has from the U.S. Census Bureau's 2015 to 2019, out of the 59% of young children that are dual language learners in California, 44% of DLLs have at least one parent who also speaks another language other than English, with 69% of DLLs who live in immigrant families. This data provides support as to why educators need more access to supports and resources that will increase the quality of the programs to support dual language learners and their families. Next slide, please. Here, we would like to share the top non-English languages spoken in dual language learner households in California for 2015 to 2019, provided by MPI from the U.S. Census Bureau. This data provides a great understanding of the children and families that potentially may be served in our programs. The languages included in this data set are the following: Spanish, 66%, Chinese, 5%, Tagalog, 3%, Vietnamese, 2%, Korean, 1%, Hindi, 1%, Arabic, 1%, Russian, 1%, Farsi or Persian, 1%, Armenian, 1%. And this does not include all of the other amazing languages that other families speak in their household that you may not see in your programs that are listed as other and accounting for 17% of the languages spoken in California. I will now hand it over to Margaret to discuss policy review. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Valentina. I will now share some policy background, considerations, and the progress thus far on supporting dual language learners in CSPP. The California English Learner Roadmap policy, adopted by the State Board of Education in 2017, established a coherent, aspirational vision for the experiences and outcomes of multilingual learners, inclusive of dual language learners and English learners. The policy invites schools, districts, and early education programs to envision how multilingual learners will fully and meaningfully access and participate in a 21st century education from early childhood through grade 12 that results in their attaining high levels of English proficiency, mastery of grade level standards, and opportunities to develop proficiency in multiple languages, recognizing that the foundation of such an experience is grounded in universal pre-kindergarten, or UPK, and high quality early learning and care. This policy also echoes an emphasis of assets-oriented perspectives around home language and culture. In addition to the state seal of biliteracy for secondary students established in 2012, is the Biliteracy Pathway Recognitions Program, which begins in preschool as an optional recognition of progress in listening, speaking, reading, and writing in one or more languages in addition to English. The Biliteracy Pathway Recognitions is just one of a myriad of examples of how California is working to create bridges across P12. In an effort to support the high-level language development of all multilingual learners, the California English Learner Roadmap policy's mission, vision, and four guiding principles provide a foundation for implementation of a high-quality education for DLLs and EL students. Principle 4 of the policy highlights the goal of alignment and articulation within and across systems through which multilingual learners experience a coherent, articulated and aligned set of practices and pathways across grade levels and educational segments, beginning with a strong foundation in early childhood and appropriate identification of strengths and needs, continuing through to reclassification, graduation, higher education, and career opportunities. UPK is a critical component of these pathways to foster the skills, languages, literacy, and knowledge students need for college and career readiness and engagement in a global, diverse, multilingual 21st century world. If you would like additional research to look at after the webinar is complete, we will drop 2 links in the chat for you. The first is the CDE EL Roadmap homepage, and the second is the English Learner Roadmap Principles Overview. Next slide, please. In addition to the EL Roadmap policy, early education policy provides a key foundation for the education of all UPK children. I will now discuss dual language learner policy in CSPP and give a brief overview of how far we have come with Assembly Bill 1363, the bill that was the driving force for Management Bulletin 2303 and started our journey on improving supports for dual language learners by developing a systematic approach for providers to identify and support dual language learners in California state preschool programs. With the data collection from this bill, we will now have access to data on DLLs in CSPP, and we'll be able to use it to better understand and support the students we serve. By celebrating bi or multilingualism and understanding that it is an asset, we hope to use this data for good beneficial purposes and help families feel more comfortable as we seek to potentially identify their child as a dual language learner. The access to data will provide us with a better understanding of the different languages and cultures in the classroom to help ensure multilingual learners, including English learner students, have the additional support and instruction they need through proper identification. At the preschool level, programs and teachers need more developmentally appropriate materials in the target language and professional learning to prepare them to provide hands-on experiences that aid in building language background, especially in underserved communities. The allocation of funds will be supported in the data we have on these children and programs. This is still just the beginning. We are identifying and reporting dual language learners, but what we do with this information and what we do with it to support these children and programs will tie everything back together to the goals of the Master Plan for Early Learning and Care, California for All Kids, and the overall intent of AB 1363. I will pass it over to Valentina to introduce our first guest speaker for the day. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Margaret. Next up, we have our wonderful guest speaker from Sacramento County Office of Education, Katie Hardy, to speak to us about California classroom strategies for supporting dual language learners. Katie has worked in the field of early childhood education for 15 years, serving children and families in a variety of early learning environments, including Head Start, California State Preschool, inclusion classrooms, and private programs. She currently works as an early childhood education program specialist for the Sacramento County Office of Education. She is a coach to preschool teachers, a reliable class observer for preschool, infants, and toddlers, is trained in teaching pyramid and guided language acquisition design, or GLAD, for preschool children. She has a bachelor's degree in child development and a Master of Arts degree in education, with an emphasis in leadership and early childhood education. And most importantly, she is a mother to 2 twin girls. Thank you so much for joining us, Katie. We are so happy to have you here with us today. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Valentina. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Katie Hardy, and I'm a former preschool teacher who spent about 15 years in the classroom before recently transitioning into my new role as an early childhood education specialist with the Sacramento County Office of Education. I'm very excited to be with you here today to discuss some classroom strategies for engaging, supporting, and assessing our young dual language learners, or DLLs, as this was an incredibly important part of my work as a Head Start and California State preschool teacher. I want to start off this discussion by, excuse me, first taking a moment to emphasize the importance of being bilingual as an important reminder as to why we work so hard to support our DLL students in maintaining a strong foundation in their home languages. The benefits of bilingualism are many, and these brain benefits are well documented in research. Some of these benefits include increased cognitive flexibility, the improved ability to plan and solve problems, and self-regulatory skills. In our work with students and families, we want to approach our unique classroom community in a way that's culturally sensitive, aware, and curious. Creating culturally responsive environments for our students and their families is key in creating those partnerships and relationships that best support student learning and engagement. We should aim to situate our teaching of knowledge and skills within the cultural context and lived experiences of our students to create opportunities for more authentic, meaningful learning. Our DLL students' home languages are incredibly important to their ability to learn a second language. By supporting our students and their families in creating and maintaining a strong foundation in their home languages, we foster their ability to more easily and readily acquire the English language. It's so important to remember that our preschool students are really all English language learners. The children we serve, even the ones who only speak and hear English at home, are still acquiring a language that is new to them. They've only been speaking for a few years. They're all still learning new vocabulary, ways of expressing themselves, and how to get their needs met through language, just like our dual language learner students. All early learners benefit from language acquisition support strategies and intentional planning surrounding English language acquisition. Finally, the strategies I will discuss today are examples of practices that support DLLs and all young children. Providing experiences and assessing learning in a variety of ways supports all learners and our ability as teachers to capture children's true learning and understanding. Students with special needs, speech delays, and typically developing children may all benefit from these strategies as well. Next slide, please. So when using the DRDP to assess children's learning, it might feel difficult to gather sufficient data to support those initial measurements of DLL students' learning and capturing their growth over time, especially when you do not speak the same language. If available in your program, utilize the support of your bilingual instructional support staff, or BIAs, in gathering data to support your DRDP assessments and subsequent planning. BIAs are an invaluable resource for teachers, children, and families, and they can have profound impacts on the accuracy of our DRDP assessments and our understanding of our DLL students' learning and growth. BIAs can help facilitate small group activities, reread the anchor text in DLL students' home languages, which we will discuss more in depth later on, help provide written translation for classroom labels and documents given to families. We can also think about some components of our large group activities that may be better offered for DLL students in a smaller group setting with BIA support. Some examples might be our question of the day, reviewing content discussed at circle time, etc. So taking the time to intentionally plan for the time that your BIA spends in your classroom can help ensure their time is spent most effectively supporting DLL students. Another invaluable resource to measuring those DRDP starting points and growth are our DLL students' families. Teachers can partner with their BIA to create an observation form or a questionnaire for families to complete for those measures that may be more difficult to capture, or just to gather information about all of the wonderful things your students are doing at home. Encourage families to fill these out and discuss them regularly with you, and incorporate these anecdotes into your DRDP assessments. Children's family members can also serve in similar ways to BIAs. Invite families to volunteer in the classroom, read a story to students in their home language, support you in facilitating small and large group activities if they're comfortable, and maybe even ask them to jot down a few notes of what they noticed DLL students doing and saying. When assessing young children, be sure to observe students and collect data across various times, settings, and circumstances to best capture their knowledge, skills, and growth. This is best practice for assessing all young children. Allow children to demonstrate what they know in a variety of ways, not solely depending on verbal communication. Incorporate visuals, gestures whenever possible, rather than solely relying on spoken language to interact and communicate with students. Another strategy that can support DRDP assessment of DLL students is creating visuals for key vocabulary words you're discussing in class to send home to students' families. These may be words that are related to children's current interests, a unit of study, social emotional topics, whatever you're teaching your students, or maybe noticing they're needing some more support with. And send these words home paired with images written in English and translated into the home languages of your students. This gives children the opportunity to discuss concepts being taught in the classroom at home with their families in their home languages. Encourage families to include information about what their child shares with them at home on the forms that I discussed earlier. Next slide, please. So when I was a classroom teacher, one of the strategies that I found most effective with all of my students, including dual language learners, was incorporating the use of visuals. The word visuals encompasses so much, and these supports can be utilized and woven into so many areas of our teaching and classrooms. One idea for utilizing visuals to support DLL students is creating an interactive visual schedule, the keyword being interactive. Hang the schedule at children's eye level, include real photos of your current students engaging throughout various times in your day, and use it. Invite children to move a clothespin, a star, or any other special icon to the current or upcoming time in your schedule, and take this opportunity to explicitly teach words and ideas around these specific times in your day. Another idea for incorporating visual supports in your classroom is creating picture icons for essential words, concepts, and routines, and make these accessible to teachers throughout the day. This can support all children, especially DLL students, in understanding simple requests, routines, and help keep them safe. A good starting place might be words and pictures that represent the bathroom, lining up, washing hands, playing, putting toys away, eating, or sitting at the carpet. These are especially helpful in those earliest days of the school year when students are new to the classroom and our expectations. Make these pictures small and store them on a binder ring to wear on your badge or your belt loops, or even hang them in the classroom or outside. If you're able to include the translations of these words into the home languages of your students on these cards, that's even better. Take photos of your students playing in each interest area and post those near the center signs. This can be a useful visual support when DLL children may be unsure of how to use materials or the behavior expectations in a specific interest area of the classroom. When thinking about your classroom expectations or rules for specific times in your day, consider taking photos of your students engaging in these desirable behaviors and posting them near the areas where these behaviors are expected to occur. For example, if your circle time expectations are to have students sitting with a calm body, eyes watching the teacher, voices quiet when it's someone's turn to talk, take photos of children meeting these expectations and exhibiting these behaviors and post them near your large group gathering area. Especially consider including DLL students in these photos, as this can create a powerful learning and engagement opportunity for them if they are the ones featured in representing specific concepts and desirable behaviors for their classmates. Again, just like our visual schedules and icons, intentionally use these photos as a teaching tool and interact with them with your students. Visuals that are interactive and used in teaching students have a much more powerful effect on learning than visuals that are simply hung up in the classroom and not discussed with children. And utilize your body language, gestures, facial expressions to engage with DLL students too. These are visual representations of our ideas and questions and can be more universal ways to communicate, and pay attention to your students using these as a way to communicate with you as well. Next slide, please. There are a variety of excellent instructional models that support young children's language acquisition. Sobrato Early Academic Language, or SEAL, Personalized Oral Language Learning, or POL, and Preschool Guided Language Acquisition Design, or GLAD, are just a few of these models that offer powerful teaching strategies to support language acquisition for young children, particularly for dual language learners. My personal experience has primarily been in utilizing the preschool GLAD strategies. So I'll share some of those with you that I found were most effective in my classroom, though I encourage you to research the various models available in California and determine which may be the best fit for you in your program. Selecting a text that's read multiple times throughout a week, sometimes referred to as an anchor text, is a great starting point to creating some additional visual supports for DLL students. The text you choose should be related to a particular topic, unit of study, theme, or something your students are currently discussing in class. Asking your BIAs and or families to reread this text in your students' home languages is a powerful way to support DLL students' understanding of the content. So go through the book, determine which vocabulary words and concepts you intend to teach your students. Repetition is key when learning new words for DLL students and all young learners. So rereading the same text multiple times per week provides young children that repetitive exposure to new words and ideas. Select some words from the text that are a mix of everyday words they might hear in conversation and some words that are a bit more challenging, less commonly heard. For any nouns that you've chosen, so people, places, or things that you want to explicitly teach your students, draw a simple picture that represents that word in front of your students while discussing what that word means. You can sketch these drawings lightly in pencil ahead of time before going over them with a marker during group time in front of your students. Gather real objects or a photograph of the vocabulary word to show students an authentic representation of your drawing. When you say the vocabulary word, pair it with a physical motion that represents the meaning and use this motion each time you repeat this word with the children. Pairing a physical action with a word or concept solidifies the meaning of the word and provides young children with another mode of communication rather than solely relying on spoken language. Keep these drawings posted and accessible for students in your classroom as a reference and a way for children to interact with the concepts taught throughout the day. And I included a screenshot of a live Zoom meeting with my preschoolers during just distance learning a few years ago as an example. We were working on a tree study, and one of the words I chose to teach my students was the word saw. So I sketched a simple pencil drawing of a saw before class, and then I went over it in blue marker while my students watched. I showed them a picture of a real saw, and we decided together to make a sawing motion across our forearm with one hand to pair with the word saw. I asked them to repeat the word while making this hand motion several times throughout the Zoom to practice using this new word. Next slide, please. As we think about lesson planning for our DLL students, it's important to remember that the relationships and bonds we build with our students are the foundation for increasing student engagement. Prioritizing those relationships and trust with our students creates a learning environment where children feel safe and willing to engage, participate, and take risks in our classroom. A great first step to increasing engagement with DLL students is taking the time to learn a few keywords in your students' home languages. Learn to count to 10, learn and practice greeting and departure phrases like good morning, goodbye, see you tomorrow. Learn keywords for items found in the classroom and words that keep children safe. This not only increases engagement from your students and builds relationships, it supports your data collection and measuring and understanding and growth, but it also gives DLL students the opportunity to be the expert, the teacher, to provide instruction and encouragement to you in learning a new language. Post translations of these words and phrases in the classroom, spelled out phonetically, for all classroom staff and substitutes to utilize. When lesson planning, I was sure to consistently include some preschool GLAD strategies that were particularly effective in increasing the engagement from my students. Any strategies that incorporated visuals and physical movements, teacher-created books, and songs and chants were frequently present in my lesson plans. I consistently created those drawings we discussed earlier of those key vocabulary words and pairing them with a physical action. I created simple teacher-made books that related to our unit of study and reinforced those key vocabulary words, as well as creating simple songs and chants to familiar tunes with the vocabulary words to sing throughout the day. And families always appreciated being sent the lyrics to these songs and chants, which also helps extend students' classroom learning into their home environments. I observed these GLAD strategies greatly increasing participation in large and small groups during transitions and even during meal times. An intentional message can be another powerful way to welcome and orient your students to the intention of your group time and introduce keywords and ideas. These messages give us an opportunity to integrate previous learning into current discussions and scaffold understanding of future content. I included a photo here of an intentional message that I used during one day of our tree study. Center enhancements are a really fun and effective way to get your students excited about your study or theme. Incorporate elements from your unit into various centers in the classroom. For example, during a pet study, you might turn your dramatic play area into a veterinarian's office. You might add small plastic pet figurines or counters to math, x-rays of pets to your light table, anything you can think of to infuse your environment with elements of your study. This gives students the opportunity to truly play with the ideas and concepts from your study and allows DLL students to practice new vocabulary outside of structured group times and with their peers. One strategy that became one of my most favorite ways to engage students, but one that I was initially very hesitant about using with preschoolers, was giving students time to turn and talk to their neighbor during large and small group times. So provide a simple prompt for students that relates to the content being discussed at group time to discuss with the child sitting next to them. For example, if you're studying trees, you might say, turn and tell your neighbor about a time you saw an animal in a tree and give them about 1 minute to talk with their partner. If this is new for your students, it will take time to teach the strategy, but I highly encourage you to try it. I heard some of the most rich conversation during these turn and talks, especially from my dual language learners. It gives children time to process the concepts and vocabulary that we have been teaching and practicing with a peer. Practicing with peers can be a safer space for DLLs to utilize new language versus answering to adults, especially in large group settings. Some children may be more willing to take risks with various peers rather than with adults. And a common guideline for these turn and talks is to provide about 1 minute of processing time or talking with their neighbor for about every 5 minutes of teacher talk. The more familiar your students become with this strategy, the more often it can be used during group activities. Next slide, please. Prioritize planning multisensory, hands-on, interactive lessons that spark children's interest and encourage them to participate. Be creative and consider what your DLL students are particularly interested in or motivated by when planning, and incorporate these into experiences in the classroom. When children can utilize various learning modalities, they're better able to communicate what they know and wonder. Those activities that are based on sitting at a table, listening to verbal instructions, and then responding verbally to an adult may limit DLL students' ability to participate as fully as their English-speaking peers. Give students opportunities to engage with their bodies, facial expressions, gestures, manipulating materials, and most importantly, play. Create simple storyboard activities with felt or pictures that make the stories read and available in your classroom come alive and allow children to engage with the story in a hands-on way rather than simply listening. Children are also able to retell the narrative of a story using these tangible materials without relying solely on verbal communication. Include books in your classroom, your interest area signs, and material labels that are translated into the home languages of your students. Although many preschool-age children may not be able to read, many will recognize their home language in print, which increases their engagement with classroom materials and fosters a more culturally responsive and inclusive classroom. My experience has primarily been working with students who speak Arabic, Farsi, Dari, or Pashto at home. And I had students each and every year get so excited when they saw their written home languages incorporated prominently into our classroom environment. Using a variety of strategies when lesson planning for dual language learners better fosters the creation of a safe, supportive environment where all learners feel free to take risks, engage with their teachers and peers, communicate in ways that are most comfortable for them, and have better access to the knowledge and skills that we intentionally teach. This further supports our relationship building with students, DRDP assessments, partnerships with families, and providing effective, individualized instruction to the variety of learners in our classroom communities in ways that are most meaningful to them. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on classroom strategies to support dual language learners in your programs. I will now pass it to Shanna to introduce the next guest speaker for today. Thank you, everyone. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Katie, for sharing your experiences with your classroom strategies that best support dual language learners in your program. We so appreciate all of the knowledge that you shared with the group today, and we're confident that the group of participants today feel the same way. There was just so many great strategies. I I'm sure everyone was taking notes. Next up, we have another great guest speaker, Kelly Soul from Educare Los Angeles at Long Beach, who will be talking to us today about family engagement for supporting DLLs. Kelly Soul is one of the mentoring supervisors and part of the Educare Long Beach leadership team. She earned a master's in human development from Pacific Oaks College and has over 30 years of experience working in early childhood education. As an educational leader, Ms. Soul works directly with teaching teams, supporting curriculum and instruction, responsive environments, and high-quality teaching practices. Through these approaches, she's been instrumental in bringing a greater focus on social emotional well-being and the critical impact of building strong relationships as the foundation for all learning. She strongly believes in family-school partnerships, and her work emphasizes the importance of the parent-child relationship that ultimately leads to school readiness for children and families. She loves sharing her passion for music and movement, mindfulness, allowing her to positively impact her community. We want to thank Kelly again for joining us today, and we're happy to have her here to present on family engagement for supporting dual language learners. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Let's get started by thinking about family engagement and what that looks like. When we truly engage with someone, it means that we are invested in building a relationship. Sometimes we hear parent or family involvement used interchangeably with family engagement, but there is a difference. Partnering with families or having an interactive, collaborative process with families is building a foundation through goal-oriented relationships that support strong parent-child relationships, family well-being, ongoing learning and development for parents and children, and positive outcomes. When we're working with families, we want to think about how we can authentically engage with them. We've all heard it takes a village to raise a child. And this is why we want to build an authentic partnership with families, to be part of that village so that we can work together in the best interest of the child's growth and development. We want to create the kind of relationship with our families that is a shared responsibility, where teachers and parents are both contributing to creating an effective partnership. Sharing responsibility for creating and maintaining open communication will help the relationship between you and the parent really deepen based on trust and respect, as well as empower the adults and encourage strength-based attitudes. This takes time and consistent effort. It will not always be easy, and there are likely to be moments where you would rather not have a conversation or a tough conversation with a parent. This is typical, and it happens to everyone. However, it is our job to model how we can stay in the conversation even when it is hard. Our children and families deserve this. This kind of partnership really requires us to truly listen to parents as much as we want them to listen to us. Parents are the experts on their child. When we adopt this belief, we are meeting the family where they are with a strengths or asset-based attitude. When we think about the child's development, what their strengths and areas for growth are, we want to listen to what the parent says. Goal setting for a child should always be a collaboration based on ongoing conversations between you and the parent or guardian. When we include parent input into children's goals, we're empowering families to step into being their children's lifelong teachers. We are strengthening the parent-child relationship as we support families in understanding their child's development and being able to meet their children's developmental needs. Next slide, please. The benefits of family engagement. So now let's dig a little deeper into why engaging with families in such an intentional way is so beneficial. In the short term, having a strong relationship with a parent will make your job as a teacher easier. Parents who feel connected to you will want to do what you ask them to do. Whether that is turning in papers to you, participating in your classroom parent meetings, attending school-wide workshops, scheduling conferences with you, and so forth. But the long-term value goes beyond that. When you invest yourself in building a true partnership with a parent, you are modeling for them how to build and sustain a positive, productive relationship with their child. This is what we call the parallel process. What that means is that the emotional connections you form with parents will influence parents' emotional connections and attachment with their children and increase their children's curiosity toward learning. Remember, parents will always be their child's first and most important lifelong teacher. And so we want to do the best we can to ensure that parents have the tools they need to really connect with their children. The quality of parent-child relationships and interactions create the foundational skills that children need to be successful in school and in life. Next slide, please. Practical strategies to encourage family engagement. So now that we've defined and discussed the benefits of intensive family engagement, let's talk about what we can do to make those relationships come alive in the best interests of children and family well-being. One of the most important ways to connect with parents is by creating a welcoming and inclusive environment of families' cultures. So let's start with learn and use parents' names. I'm not talking about greeting a parent like, "Hi, Mateo's mom." Imagine if you went through life being called somebody's mom or daughter or sister or brother. That feels quite different than if someone takes the time and makes the effort to learn and use your name. "Hi, Maria. It's good to see you this morning. How are you? How is Mateo?" This may seem like a difficult thing to do, to learn so many names, but I assure you it's one of the most important things you will do to build relationships and earn the respect of the parents in your program. Something that has helped me with learning parents' names is labeling children's cubbies with both parent and child names. This is a simple strategy that will help you in the beginning to memorize your family's names. Another important strategy is to display photographs of families in classrooms and even in school hallways. Some families will bring in photos, and for those that do not, be ready to take pictures at arrival or pickup time if parents are comfortable taking photos. All families need to be reflected in the classroom as these pictures become conversation starters. Photographs provide many opportunities for bridging home and school as parents share details about who is in the picture, what they were doing, etc. Teachers can also share their own family pictures, and this further develops relationships. bringing parents right into the classroom and asking them to share a song they sing at home, or music from their own childhood, or read a story or an activity of the parents' choosing is super important as we create welcoming and inclusive environments. An effortless way to bring some diversity into the classroom and to reflect the multicultural backgrounds of your children is to ask families to donate empty food containers for children to explore in their socio-dramatic pretend play. You'll be amazed at the variety of foods that your children are accustomed to at home, and this makes for rich language interactions with kids. Speaking of language, take the time to have parents teach you frequently used words in their home language. This can be a fun way to build your own vocabulary so that you can connect with individual children and also pass new language on to others. When you have new families enrolling in your program, especially if their home language is not the dominant language of most families, introduce the new families to current families. I have seen happen when parents reach out to other parents. The friendships that form, the support they can offer each other, this really enhances the school experience for both new and current families and builds a sense of community and belonging. Your intentional efforts to bridge parents to each other go a long way to fostering an inclusive environment. Next slide, please. Building competency in parents that supports the learning and development of their children. During individual meetings, such as home visits, parent-teacher conferences, or formal and informal conversations, you acknowledge and respect each family's culture, beliefs, and lived experiences as you listen to learn more and understand the child and family better. When you host classroom parent meetings and share current classroom experiences and what children are learning, you are giving parents a window into their child's world away from home. Providing information on typical developmental milestones is so helpful and gives parents an objective tool to deepen their understanding of their own child's development and how to support it. Another excellent resource for providing information and encouraging back and forth exchanges is the teacher's use of a Google Classroom. This digital platform is very user-friendly and allows you to post photographs, video clips, articles, and other resources that families can view at a convenient time, try out at home, and respond back to you. Inviting parents to join in group experiences in the classroom during the first 15 minutes of the day, as Katie mentioned, is another powerful way to promote an inclusive environment where everyone is learning. I have seen teachers, parents, children, all gathered in a circle, singing together, sharing family traditional songs, right alongside classroom favorites. These precious minutes can set a positive tone for the day, for everyone, parent, child, teacher, everyone. Earlier, I mentioned collaborative goal setting that gets all the adults on the same page in working together in the best interests of the children's growth and development. One tip for communicating with parents is to use the child's behavior as your language. All parents are interested to know what their child is doing. at school. When you share an anecdote about something the child did or said, you are really communicating, I see your child. I'm paying attention, and just like you, I want the best for her or him. This is how to engage families in back and forth conversations about their children. Next slide, please. Parent or partner, what's the difference? So let's wrap up with a little wordplay. I have a question for you. What makes the difference between someone being a parent in your classroom or your partner in teaching and learning? The answer is you. See how the letter R is an extra letter in the word partner? You truly are the one who can make the difference. And what a big contrast there is between a parent who just drops off and picks up their child day after day and one who truly engages with you. Let's remember that all learning takes place within the context of relationships, and that the quality of relationships is dependent on you choosing to hold a strengths-based attitude toward parents. It also means using the behavior of the child as your language with parents. And finally, committing yourself to being a reflective teacher who thinks about her or his own perspectives and beliefs and is willing to consider that others will have different perspectives. With a willingness to see ourselves as a teacher and a learner, each of us can be a change agent in our field of early childhood education and share the responsibility with the village for raising the next generation. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope our time together has been helpful and that you will try some of the recommendations in your own classrooms. Good luck. Thank you. Next slide.
Wow, Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with supporting dual language learners through family engagement in your program. We appreciate all your knowledge that you shared with the group today. And from all the love I saw in the reactions, I know that the group of participants today feel the exact same way. Thanks again so much. So before we get to today's exciting panel discussion, I wanted to share that the Early Education Division at the CDE has created a dual language learner support webpage. This webpage will provide technical support, guidance, and resources for the identification, reporting, and support of dual language learners in California state preschool programs. Our goal is that the webpage will be one location for easy access and reference. The resources to be included on this webpage will be dependent on feedback from external partners and other collaborative work. Currently, the webpage includes the following: Management Bulletin 23-03, Management Bulletin, also the Preschool Learning Information System, Frequently Asked Questions, the DLL support webinar series recordings and PowerPoint presentations, as well as other support materials for the field, will soon be posted on this webpage. This webpage will continue to be updated as new resources are developed. We'll put a link to this webpage in the chat. Next slide. All right, at this time, we're going to move into our panel discussion. This panel will discuss supporting DLLs in California state preschool programs and answer questions on the topic. The panelists will be sharing their insight and ideas. These should be taken as suggestions that may be helpful to your program. They're not requirements and do not supersede the official guidance outlined in Management Bulletin 23-03. To get us started, on the next slide, we will begin by introducing our moderator for today's discussion panel. Next slide. I am so very excited to share that our moderator for today is Dr. Matilda Surya. Dr. Matilda is the Senior Director of Early Care and Education with the Office of Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. Dr. Matilda has earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology and a minor degree in ethnic studies from California State University, Fresno. She has a master's degree in human development and psychology with a specialization in risk and prevention from Harvard University and a doctorate in educational leadership from California State University, Fresno. She has extensive experience conducting scientific and behavioral research, as well as in the development, management, and evaluation of educational and social service programs for families and children. She serves on the California Child Care Coordinators Association, CCCCA, their executive committee, on the Fresno City College Child Development Department Advisory Committee, and the Policy Committee of Every Child California. She also serves as a board member for Fresno Metro Ministries, a community benefit organization dedicated to improving the health, environmental quality, economic development, and overall resiliency of the San Joaquin Valley, and Storyland Playland themed park in Fresno, California. So you can see why we are so excited to have her here today as a moderator. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Matilda. We're so happy to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you to have you introduce our panelists and begin the discussion. Next slide.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shanna. I'd like to introduce our panelists today, beginning with Ana Arambula Gonzalez. Ana Arambula Gonzalez, MS, is the Child Development Instructor Coordinator at Madera Community College and Project Director of the Multilingual Learner Teaching Certificate at the Institute for Racial Equity and Excellence. Ana will be transitioning to a new role at Advance College as a full-time faculty regional director of practice. As an adjunct professor, Ana has taught and developed courses at California State University, Channel Islands, San Francisco State University, Fresno City College, and Advance College. In addition, she continues to develop courses, certificates, and delivers professional development on dual language learning, family engagement, and personalized oral language learning strategies. Ana helps ensure equitable and full access to quality classroom experiences for multilingual learners by sharing her knowledge with those who work with them. She is an established author on the topic of supporting dual language learners. Welcome, Ana. Next, we have Dr. Carola Oliva Olson. Dr. Carola Oliva Olson, PhD, is a leading expert on multilingualism, inclusion, equity, early childhood programming, and professional development. She's the Executive Director of Language Justice and Multilingual Education at the Institute of Racial Equity and Excellence. She will start her new role next month as Vice President of Early Childhood Studies at Advance College. Carola is an established author on the topic of supporting dual language learners to support both leaders and educators. She was the principal investigator for the California Department of Education and California State Superintendent of Public Instruction's Early Initiatives Professional Development Grants. Carola was appointed to the California Governor's Early Childhood Policy Council, where she leads multilingual education efforts. Welcome, Carola. Finally, we have Rayema Avalos from Educare Los Angeles and Long Beach, California. Rayema received her BA in Child Development from California State University, Los Angeles, and her MA in Human Development with a concentration in Leadership in Education and Human Services from Pacific Oaks College. Ms. Avalos helped develop a series of STEM videos titled Growing with STEM. Ms. Avalos continued her professional career as an education coordinator for Crystal Stair's Family Childcare Home Provider Program, where she provided support to more than 40 family childcare home providers, bringing innovative ideas while coaching them to maintain the highest quality standards. Currently, she serves as a mentoring supervisor at Educare. During her short time at Educare, Ms. Avalos has supported leadership and staff by overseeing the implementation of conscious discipline, DRDP, SEAL, and ESI. Welcome, Reema. If you'd like to reach out to any of our wonderful panelists after this webinar, we will include their contact information in the chat. Next slide, please. For today's panel discussion, we'll be answering 5 important questions. I will first review them on this slide and then the next slide, and then we'll stop screen sharing so that we can see all of our wonderful panelists. Question number 1, what do you do to welcome and engage families of dual language learners as active partners in their child's learning? Question number 2, how do you help a child feel safe in your classroom on the first day of school or while they get adjusted if you do not speak the same language as they do? Question number 3, what do you do to set up your classroom environment to support the learning of dual language learners and create a welcome environment? Next slide, please. And the final 2 questions before we begin. Question number 4, how do you build a positive relationship with dual language learner parents when you don't speak the same language? And finally, question number 5, what do you do to encourage home language development if you don't speak the home language of all the dual language learners in your classroom? So at this time, we'll now stop screen sharing and begin our panel discussion. All right. So question number 1, what do you do to welcome and engage families of dual language learners as active partners in their child's learning? We'll go ahead and start with Carola.
Thank you, Matilda. So the North Star is for families and teachers to work together and ensure that all children feel seen, that they belong, that their language and home life and community are all important and valued. We want our families to know that they belong and that their home language is an incredible gift that we admire, that we celebrate, and we don't want them to wonder whether using their home language is allowed or if it could hinder their child's development and impede their learning of English. This is why it's so important that we engage in ongoing conversations to share that the opposite is true, that research shows that there are multiple and powerful benefits to being bilingual or multilingual. In doing so, we want to be clear, we want to be consistent, we want to be explicit in the conversation and communication with families from the very beginning by sharing the benefits of bilingualism, language preservation and revitalization, and the importance of the home language for everyday interactions. It's important also to reassure families that children with language or developmental delays or disabilities also benefit from a strong home language foundation. So let me share an example. Fresno County Superintendent of Schools and Fresno Unified School District just completed a new professional development series that focused on how teachers and multilingual families can both engage in dialogic reading practice using fun storybooks. And in this practice, they have frequent and long and interesting conversations in their home language. So teachers also learned that in the classroom, they were able to promote language interactions that use prompts that were at each child's individual language level. And from there, they built in complexity by extending and engaging in back and forth exchanges. And through this process, this is how dialogue came alive.
Thank you, Carola. And just to add on to what Carola just mentioned, to build relationships of trust where families feel comfortable being involved and engaged in their children's classrooms, teachers must value and elevate families' languages, dialects, cultures, beliefs, and practices, skills, and talents, just to name a few. The question is, how? Well, the first step is learning really how to pronounce each child's name correctly. To do so, we should ask the family how their child's name is pronounced. And I invite you to think about this. Has someone ever mispronounced your name? If your name is a name that most people find difficult to enunciate, you eventually might get used to it, but that is not your name. A child's name, our name, is part of who we are, and that needs to be respected. Also, teachers can welcome families when their children begin school by putting up a welcome sign in the languages the children speak. Other examples include materials, environmental print, and storybooks in the spoken languages. An example that I would like to share is an example that an infant classroom did here in Fresno, where there was a new child that was going to start the program, and one of the languages that the family spoke was Swahili. And so the teacher did a welcome sign with the welcome word in that language, and that really sent the message to the family that we value you, we value who you are, and most importantly, your language. And now I pass it on to Raima.
Thank you so much. So yeah, although it can be challenging to speak or engage with a family when you don't speak their language, there are so many things that you could educator. The first thing is create a welcoming and inviting environment where you're emphasizing the importance of those partnerships, those strong partnerships for school success. You know, have books in the home language of that child, have them accessible so the parent could read to their child, or maybe during large group. Also, have the families record some of those school favorites in their home language. Imagine as you're playing that recording, the child's hearing that language, how connected, how part of that group they feel. Those are just a couple of strategies that you could integrate as you continue to help to welcome and engage families. Matilda?
Yeah, thank you so much. Question number 2. How do you help a child feel safe in your classroom on the first day of school, or while they get adjusted if you do not speak the same language as they do? And we'll go ahead and start again with Carola.
So it was mentioned earlier, it's so important that we create a safe and relationship-driven learning environment that cultivates friendships and respect for one another. So when children feel accepted, when they feel noticed and celebrated, they're eager to learn, they're interested, they're engaged, they're curious. So feeling connected and feeling that you belong to the classroom group is what allows children to be open to learning, because stress levels decrease. And it's important for the child to know, I am the same person at school as I am at home and or within my community. This is essential because it fosters self-confidence, family and community pride, and positive identity. All children want to be cool. So as a team of teachers in Calaveras County said, that what they shared with us was that they asked families to tell them how to greet children in their home language. They wrote this down, they recorded it on their phones, and then when children arrived, they intentionally used those sayings, expressions, words that they learned from the families to say welcome. Welcome to our class. This helped begin the day by building a warm, caring, attentive, and respectful relationship to foster a sense of belonging with the children. But they also learned key words and phrases in the children's home languages so that they could support and comfort the children when they're in distress. That's not a time where we're going to focus on teaching language, but really supporting and feeling the child get what the child needs at that time. And I'll pass it to Raima.
Creating that sense of belonging is very important for children to continue to flourish and to be successful in school. And it's everybody's responsibility. So making the child feel safe will avoid them being in that survival state. When a child is in a survival state, it's very hard for them to be able to learn and to incorporate themselves into the environment. But when you feel that sense of belonging, you are able to walk around the classroom, explore, have those relationships with friends. Let's start by making parents feel safe, feel part of our classroom. If the parent feels that they belong, that this is a place where they're welcome, they're gonna feel comfortable taking their child there. And we always see when a child and a parent are in a strange situation, the child always looks up at the parent to see if it's safe or not. So imagine if you're able to provide that and the parent says, "It's okay, honey. It's okay, mija. Go ahead. You're going to be safe. They're going to take care of you." Having parents bring objects from home that they know that they're going to keep their child safe or feel that security. Photos, we heard it about photographs in the environment. Having visual schedules that are interactive, where I might not know what you're telling me, but if you show me a picture that says time to wash hands, or you do that gesture, I'm going to be able to follow along. Also, taking advantage of that parent orientation or that first home visit to really get close to that child, understand what do they like, what do they enjoy. When a child is in distress and you're able to connect with the child and say, "Hey, do you want a colored?" and name their favorite cartoon, they will be able to de-escalate and you could start talking to them. Or let's say they enjoy dogs. The child's in this, frantic state. If you start talking about dogs and, "Well, tell me about your pup. Tell me about, what do you feed them? Do you take them for a walk?" Immediately, the child is going to take that guard down and they're going to open up to you. But most important, as teachers, you need to stay calm, you need to stay collective, and you need to feel a sense of belonging in where you are. And this is where you bring your administration support. How do we create that sense of belonging for teachers so then we're able to pass it down to our families and to our children? Anna?
Thank you. So just to add to what Raima said, it can be comforting for children and families to see images of people, cultures, and places that they recognize. By adding those artifacts, books, tribal traditional materials that reflect children's home life, cultural skills, values, beliefs, and community. You show that you value diversity in your classroom. And this is not only important for children from diverse backgrounds, but also for those from the dominant culture. So displaying materials can significantly impact the lives of all children in your classroom. Labeling objects around the classroom in English, Spanish, and other languages represented in your classroom is highly recommended. This will help children to associate print language with spoken language and build critical language and literacy skills. Matilda?
Thank you. Wow, super helpful information. Let's transition to question 4. How do you build a positive relationship with dual language learner parents when you don't speak the same language? And we'll start with Carola.
Teachers, I'll give an example. Teachers at Educare California at Silicon Valley in San Jose have posters in the classroom where they explicitly ask families to speak their home language in the classroom. They're written in Vietnamese, in Spanish, and in English, which are the languages spoken at that given time by the children and the families. They asked families also what colors to use to represent their languages. so that they ensure that they're not choosing maybe a language that has a negative connotation in that culture. Some other things that they did was, when there's changes, demographics, right, in the community, and there are other languages that are represented the following year, then those languages, the program knows an enrollment, what those languages are. Teachers, when they meet with the families with a teacher interview, parent-teacher interview, they learn about those new languages, and those languages are then incorporated into the environment. The resources, the materials, the props that are incorporated always are related to those children and families and at that given time. They're not random displays of photographs or posters. They're meaningful to the children that are there, and they change as the children change. And I'll pass it on to Ana.
Thank you, Carola. And so to provide best support for the children and families, it is essential to get to know them. Educators can learn about the child and their family before the school year starts and throughout the year. Using the family language instrument can be the first step. You may be wondering, how and when will I, the teacher, complete this instrument with families? First, connect with the families to see what works for them. The conversation can occur in person, via phone, or via Zoom. The discussion should be informal and comfortable, with the aim of learning more about the child's linguistic skills and cultural. Instead, it should be a dialogue with the teachers. Acquiring the information will assist you in arranging your classroom and implementing culturally responsive practices to effectively meet the needs of the children and provide them with the necessary support. And I pass it on.
It could start with something very basic, like learning a couple of common words or phrases in their home language. Greeting them by name. We heard earlier today the importance of that. When they walk by and you use their name and you look at them in the eye and you ask them, how do you say this in your home language? How do you say good morning? You know, buenos dias, and then you repeat it, and then you're looking at that, making that eye contact. It just shows that you are there for them, that you want them to continue to use that language. You understand the value of bilingualism and the importance of how continuing to speak both languages it's going to continue to strengthen that parent-child relationship. Matilda?
Thank you so much. And I skipped a question, so we're going to go back to question number 3. That's how you know this is live. Question number 3, what do you do to set up your classroom environment to support the learning of dual language learners and to create a welcome environment? Support the learning of dual language learners.
Okay, so first and foremost is by knowing the strengths, interest, and language variability of DLL children. Educators can make adjustments as necessary, encourage students to bring in items from home that represent their cultural heritage, tasting different types of foods, reading multicultural books, and sharing their family experiences with peers. Sharing home cultures creates an environment of acceptance and teaches children about other cultures and the world, supporting home language. The classroom environment conveys much about what and who is valued. Many classrooms use their walls to create an inviting environment. Many classrooms have family photos displayed. This sends a valuable message to the child and families. Family photos allow children to walk to their family photo and conversate with teachers and peers about who is in their family, what they like to do, and other interesting things. When children talk about their siblings, grandparents, and elders, it helps build a sense of togetherness and strengthens their bonds. Labeling items that children often use, especially for dual language learners, is extremely important. And so, for example, labeling that container that holds those art supplies in different languages can encourage both DLLs and English speakers to learn more words and helps dual language learners know where to find the materials they need. And I'll pass it on to Carola.
So the classrooms are part of the program, right? Of a larger program. And programs are the ones who set the stage for families to feel welcomed. So in thinking about this question of setting up the environment, we also have to think about where we belong, where teachers and families and the children belong. So we set the stage for everyone to feel comfortable and to feel welcomed. So it's not just in the classroom environment, but the agency, the early childhood program as a whole. And we start at the beginning, right? We start when families enroll, when they visit and want to learn more about the program. So having a formal approach to how we communicate with families about the program values and their approach to support home languages, that bilingualism, for example, is a superpower, that this is a relationship where together we're promoting bilingualism. And all of that lays a foundation of trust and respect that translates to teachers and how they interact and engage and set up the environment in the classroom. So teachers can engage in continue what starts at the first step of coming into a program for families, and teachers can engage in ongoing communication with the families about how to support and promote a strong language foundation in the home language, and how to engage in storytelling, story reading, and dialoguing with children using their home language, bringing that home language into the classroom also. So all of this is essential, right? Not leaving administrators array and not seeing this as separate, but really combining and seeing this as a relationship on how to promote culturally responsive and linguistically responsive environments.
To add to what Carola was mentioning, providing consistency for families and children is very important. Your classroom might be the only place where they feel that they belong, or that they feel that they are welcome. So making sure that we have that consistency from the beginning with routines, clear expectations, having the parent sign in, have your child check in, have them wash hands, have visuals for them at 3 steps, right, of what we want them to do in the morning. It's very important to help them feel welcome. Also, something that we do here at Educare Los Angeles at Long Beach is the 50-50 module, making sure that we are labeling, if we're speaking in English, we have our little sign that says English, it's in blue. If we're speaking Spanish, it's in red. Everything in the classroom, it's either blue or red as far as the print. Having that rich print, content-rich environment in both, the home language and English with that visual support is very important as you think about setting up your classroom. Matilda?
Thank you. All right, question number 5. What do you do to encourage home language development if you don't speak the home language of all the dual language learners in your classroom? And the first up is Carola.
I'll start. Thank you, Matilda. So all teachers can and should support all home languages. So all children who speak all varieties of languages. And this means that teachers who are monolingual speakers also can and must support multilingual learners. There's specific strategies that we now know that work for monolingual teachers or teachers who speak multiple languages, but not all the languages of the children at that given time in that classroom. So sharing with families, strategies such as sharing with families before introducing a new theme or a new unit or a new book, the vocabulary, maybe songs, the content, maybe the parts of a story, so that they can preview that material, have conversations with their child in that home language. This is important because it allows the child to have some comprehension, some understanding once that unit or that theme is introduced in the classroom. Now, when you have a purchased curriculum and you're following sort of some of the elements that are presented, as teachers, what we can do is incorporate pedagogical adaptations and enhancements that are necessary and tailored for each individual child who's a dual language learner. So all children who are dual language learners are not the same. There's incredible variability in their language development, both in their home language and in English. So an example is, and this was shared earlier, using gestures and movement and songs and chants and visuals and props every time we introduce new words and when we're using and reusing those words, so that children who are dual language learners can participate in real life. And we're not waiting until they learned it and they learn more English so that they can understand and then eventually speak and engage in oral conversations, right, in conversations. So the other part is really important so that using these materials can help in understanding maybe a storybook, right? Following, developing comprehension skills and be able to understand the parts of the stories. And the other part is that teachers should allow children to code switch, to use speech patterns and intonations and pronunciations that are used in the home and the community. This is really important, right? And the teachers can do this, and it helps by planning when they're doing their lesson plans to incorporate how children can be supported in specific ways so that they can speak to each other. They can produce language freely throughout the day that has been introduced earlier as part of that theme. And also to enrich the classroom, maybe the centers, the areas with articles, props, materials and books that are part of that theme. And then let them practice and have fun and engage in interactions, dialogue, using those words that were presented earlier and taught earlier on. And I'll pass it to Raima.
And before you do, Carola, we have about a minute. And so if I could ask the panelists to abbreviate their final responses. Thank you.
For sure. So just having the parents understand the value of bilingualism. In CO, they play a video where the older child does not speak the home language. So the middle child serves as an interpreter, right? So just seeing that the older child is like, I'm having trouble communicating. I don't know how to speak to my parents, just helping them understand that it's very important for you to continue to use that home language, that you as a teacher love and appreciate bilingualism, that it lives in your classroom, that it's accepted in your classroom, and that you are going to raise it, you're going to elevate it. I think it's very important. Anna?
Thank you. And so just to kind of summarize everything, the biggest message that we take away from our time together this afternoon is that even though we don't speak or we are not fluent in the languages of the children in our classroom, there are still a lot of ways and strategies that we can support their home language. And we can all agree that families and children can be an incredible helpful resource when we are not fluent in a particular language. And the message that we are sending is you're important to us and we value you. And for that, I thank you for being here with us. I pass it over to Matilda.
So, well, it looks like that wraps up our time for our panel discussion. I want to thank all of the wonderful panelists that engaged in our discussion today. We hope that everybody that joined us is leaving today with some great strategies and information to support their dual language learners. Over to you, Valentina.
Thank you, Dr. Matilda, Ana, Dr. Carola, and Raima for that great discussion. I'm seeing a lot of reactions on our Zoom screen, so this has been very beneficial. I am really hopeful that participants are leaving with new knowledge that they can take back to their classrooms and programs. In addition to thanking our moderator and panelists, we would also like to thank our guest speakers, Kelly and Kelly, for sharing their expertise with the group here today as well. We are very grateful to provide practical strategies to the field and have these important conversations to strengthen the supports we have for our dual language learners, students, and families. We want to thank everyone who has participated in our 3-part dual language learner series and gaining these resources and information and demonstrating your willingness to be that support for your dual language learner students. Please continue checking the Dual Language Learner Support webpage for additional supports. This is the final webinar of the series. To stay up to date on future webinars that you would like to attend, please make sure you are signed up for our email distribution list. We will put more information on this in the chat. In addition, we would like to remind everyone that we will soon post today's recording and PowerPoint on the DLL support webpage. Please note that there will be 2 additional resource slides included at the end of this PowerPoint. We will post the link to the Dual Language Learner Support webpage again as well in this chat. We want to close today with a quote from Rita Mae Brown. Language is the roadmap of a culture. It tells you where its people come from and where they are going. Have a great evening, everyone.